Hi guys, welcome back to our final video on our Exodus series. We're going to be looking at how we can then, as we live in freedom, how do we lead others towards freedom, which I think is a really important aspect. Just thinking, even as I'm saying, is probably was one of the things I didn't realize about following Jesus, but I was like, whoa, I get to do this now. Is I get to be a part of the freedom journey with others. It's like the purpose of that to me is incredible. So we want to talk about that a little bit, Jill, and can you just launch us in, because you were saying a little bit about how do we lead others to freedom then? Let's tell our story. Let's talk about God. Like, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think there's something where our lives will look different because we are living differently to the culture around us. I think there should be something noticeably different about that. Like, God set apart people, not for the sake of judging anyone else, but actually just to live in a sense of like what his purpose and plan in our lives and the world is. And then I think what that does, it's an invitation, right? So Christianity shouldn't be this, oh, these people look miserable with all their laws and rules, right? Which is a lot of people's view on what it is. But actually, we are a people of celebration, and joy marks us and peace marks us, and it should be something that becomes quite attractive to others around us. And then, of course, we need to not shy away from actually just going into the world to rescue people from the world. And I think that's the incredible thing, is that we're not set apart and like we're over here, which is what Israel's story was. They came their own people. They kind of closed in. The goal, and you were saying this, was like always to go to be in the world but change the world, right? Not to take over the world but to change it.
That's important, because when we talk about culture, often it's pitched as we are against culture, like culture something to war against, like we're in a culture war. I would push against that. I think because that puts us in camps and like puts us against people. And I think there's something about we're set apart, but we're set apart within. We're not there to war with culture. We're there to win culture to Christ. Whatever, however you want to define culture.
It's not like in the world, but not of the world, like that kind of language.
It is that call to be completely present with the world that we find ourselves in, but to live in a free way, and to not be those who are in slavery in that sense too. So I just wanted to put that in, that we're not. I don't believe we're called to be at war with culture. I believe we're called to be at winning with culture,
shaping it rather than being shaped by it.
Yeah, salt in, salt, not salt outside, salt in. Is what Jesus says, you're the salt of the earth. So therefore, let's be in and flavouring and making things taste better.
That's good.
I suppose it's the thing of like you can't take people to where you haven't been yourself. So like Moses, I do think it's really interesting that Moses has had his own individual freedom story. Brought out of Egypt, in the wilderness, encounters God's presence in the burning bush, then gets this purpose. God-given purpose to go and then free others. So Moses has encountered something, and because of that encounter, he now invites others to come and experience the same thing. So I think it's just not shying away from telling the freedom story. And I sometimes think, is it awkward? Because then what we're ultimately saying to people is like, you're not free. in a culture that thinks they are free. Yeah. That's the bit that I think is the buttoned heads a little bit, because you're coming in and going, hey, we know what freedom tastes like. They're like, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Yeah. So that's the interesting thing. So how do we tell the freedom story that they will listen? Because that was Moses, right? He goes to talk about freedom. They're like, they're so hard-hearted or so bitter or so downcast, they don't even hear him.
I think it's interesting, as you're saying, that what we've talked about is God with us. So the incarnational God also sends an incarnational rescuer that Moses has to go back in to bring out. And I think if we are to lead others to freedom, we need to be close enough with people to do that. We need to be rubbing shoulders with people. And that is getting harder and harder. I live in the centre of the universe, Ballygowan, and in my neighbourhood, you would be surprised by how hard it can be still to connect with your neighbours, because we just can live in this like disconnected world. But there's a missional purpose to us that is to connect with our communities, that is to be the salt and to rub shoulders with people. And I actually love it. Like I've shared my story so many times about how I noticed something in you, which I love this, because I remember being like, why are you like this? Yes, incredibly strange to me, because I was in captivity, but you never once like laid it out for me. It just was a hunger for me of going like, I want what you have. That to me is one of the greatest ways, but we need to be close enough with people. We need to be rubbing shoulders with people so that they can see that. I think that's becoming more and more of a challenge.
Yeah. I think even in Christian circles, like that would be an interesting conversation. Like if you look at your week, like where's the contact?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know with you guys, but especially working in church. You know, I spend 9 to 5 with a bunch of Christians. Yous are lovely, but you know, and then evenings connect group, and then there's, you know, so we are in a wee bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
You know, in so many ways. So where is the space to engage? And I think that was like not the beautiful thing with COVID. Well, it kind of was, that it kind of shut all the activity down a little bit. I don't know if we even want to go here in that conversation.
Did you just say COVID was beautiful?
I know I did. But it actually freed us up to be, it limited where we could go, right? So we actually, like, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely found I had more time for the people immediately near me. And it was my neighbours, and it was my street, and it was, but then, you know, it ramps up again, and now they just see me getting in my car going. So I'm speaking to myself. It's a challenge. Like, where am I putting myself into the world to live free in the world? Because the thing is, it's freedom in this story of Exodus became about changing locations. But there is something beautiful about I can live the freedom story. It's not about location, right? It's about Him. So I can still be in the darkest place, and because He's in me, I can still live in freedom over here, right? Which is beautiful. Again, it becomes something so much deeper than just a body of people moving from this place to this place. Because it's all, as we said before, it's all about Him. His presence is the thing that's the landmark.
It's great. It's a great reminder, even for connect groups as well, to think through how do we not become inwardly focused. It's a great reminder for us as a church. Yeah, because you're right. We can consistently live in this bubble, and I think it's also a reminder that you'll hear the language sometimes that the people who are paid by the church are in ministry, but actually we are all in ministry. We are all people called to be teachers, people called to be doctors, people called to be, you know, whatever God has called you. Dental hygienists. But that is our mindset going in, is we are now leading others to freedom wherever we are, rubbing shoulders. So we're going to give you guys a chance just to have a chat, and then we'll come back together and finish off our series. Welcome back, guys, to our final part of our video series. We're looking at how do we lead others to freedom then, as we are the free people. We touched on some good things there as we were chatting through a little bit. I think the life of Moses is so important that we see. You were mentioning how he had his own kind of wilderness experience, and then he leads others to the wilderness. Gibbo, can you share a little bit on how you see in the story? You mentioned nothing is wasted by God in this. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you look at Moses' journey, his own life. You know, he was 40. First of all, he was brought up in Pharaoh's court, so he learnt an awful lot about the Egyptian ways, all of those things. Then he's like 40. He sees these guys having a barney. He gets involved, kills the guy because he has a heart for the people, and yet then he has to leave and flee. He becomes a shepherd. He's 40 years, you know, outside of anything. You know, I mean, that's a long time in anyone's life. Purpose, all those things going on. But nothing is wasted in God's story with us. So wherever people are when they're connecting with this, at whatever stage they feel that they are at, nothing is wasted, and their story matters. And the things that we've been through matter. It really mattered that Moses had been through what he'd been through in order then to lead people to freedom. And I think it really matters what we go through in our everyday lives, situations over the time frame of our lives, as we lead others to freedom. So it really mattered that I was in school as a PE teacher for so many years. It didn't. It wasn't wasted. It wasn't like, oh, now I'm 44 years old and pause for shock and allow.
What?
I thought you were older.
And now I've arrived into what I'm meant to be doing. No, like those years of teaching, front foot defence in cricket and lay up in basketball, really mattered. Really mattered. Nothing's wasted. The times when I was a toy builder in Toy Town or a fitness instructor or whatever it was, or just the son, and going to school, all those things, they're part of your story.
Yeah.
And we mustn't, as a church, be afraid to tell our story. Mm-hmm. The highs, the lows, the times when we've been frustrated, all of those things, because that helps people see that we're real, we get life, but we've found something, we've found the one who gave us life, and therefore we have discovered and know who freedom is, what freedom is, and that's the invitational piece, that as you live beside, as you hygiene and look after people's mouths, as you do whatever it is that people do in your family, in your neighbourhood, you live in a free way. You live with a spirit that's different, and that is attractional. And there are times when you do have to tell your story. Yeah. There's times when you say, "Well, what is this? Why are you like this?" Well, this is why. Yeah.
You were talking to a lady once. This is one of the best I remember hearing, because you were saying about we need to talk about God sometimes. Like we actually. Sometimes we don't.
We don't talk
We've
about
lost
enough.
the art, in a sense, of telling God's story with others. And you were chatting with a lady who simply said there was a death in your street or something, or in your neighbourhood, and she was like, you said to her, like, we were never meant to die, were we? Like, we can feel that. It was just such a great way of like just engaging in the conversation of telling a bigger story.
Well, yeah, it was. She was like, it just feels so wrong. I was like, well, of course it's wrong.
Right.
We're never meant to die. So it's how can you bring that in to a conversation just in a really, really natural way. I had an opportunity. A couple were getting married, and they asked me to do their wedding, and they're not in faith, they're not in church, anything like that. But just able to share. Listen, I'm going to pray for you guys, and the reason I want to do this is because I really believe God is for you. He's not against you, and you may not believe in Him, but He believes in you. And all of a sudden now the guy's been texting and there's a relationship building, and you just don't underestimate the power of your story to lead others to freedom.
Brilliant. And Moses is our example of this. I'm even thinking of you and Aaron, where you guys live, and didn't you do like your street party or something? Don't you do?
Well, we're at the party street. Another one coming up, guys.
It's just, I just get so inspired by stories of that, like just engaging and rubbing shoulders with people and connecting with others and using just where we are. Colin Stewart, who's in my Connect group, he goes to our Hollywood site. He's one of our elders. He is so passionate about people knowing that you're called to where you are, right? Like if we all, and I see sometimes, and I experience it too, in the lack of confidence sometimes in that, because you see Moses, when God is calling him now to participate in the divine, to join me in my rescue mission. Yes, God is our rescuer, but He's going to do it through us, the church. He's going to do it through us, through someone like Moses. He so struggles with it. Mm-hmm. He consistently goes back to him saying like, yeah, but my speech isn't great, or they're not going to believe me if I say, and da-da-da-da-da. So I would love for us to grow in confidence that God has called us to where we are, placed us where we are, and to have street parties where we are. Do you know what I mean? And ask great questions where we are, and just be so much more intentional in that. I think that's key.
Because the key thing is that Israel was not rescued and set free just so that they could enjoy it to themselves. you know, God's heart, which he lays out really clearly with Abraham, that you're to be a nation which I'm going to bless the nations through. So it's like, I'm going to show you, take you and make you a nation, a priesthood, a nation, and you're going to do these great things, but in order that others will see and also come in. And so it's that concept of, I'm going to lead you to freedom so that you can then lead other nations to freedom too. And that's what Jesus does, isn't it? When he comes in, he says, the disciples, I'm going to bring you with me, and now you're going to go and fish. You know, you're going to be a fisher of humanity. Yeah. And it's that, you know, it is that evangelism piece that we cannot lose in our calling, in our mission, because all of us are on mission. All of us have been placed where we are, given a voice, given a story. We've been rescued, and it's so that others will know and others can be rescued too. And
I think then that leads us brilliantly to kind of as we end Exodus 33. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. Then Moses would return to the camp. So let us be people that continue to commune. The God who is with us, be in His presence, bring His presence with us as we return to the camps that He is calling us to, and that we are going to. And let us be light to the world. Salt is giving flavour around us. I think it's brilliant. Thank you guys for going on the Exodus journey with us. We will continue praying. I think I'm so excited to hear the stories as we come out of this series and see what God keeps teaching us through our Exodus series. Thank you guys for tracking with us. Please get in touch as God continues to speak to you guys and move through you guys as we journey through Exodus. Bless you and have some great chats.